And the thing I want us to do is I really do, and when we deal with the questions today, I hope we'll do it from the perspective of thinking about where are the things in our parishes and our ministries that inspire us? What are those things that inspire us? What excites us? And to see the world from that perspective. Where do we want to go in the future? What do we want the future to look like? And what is it that we need to get there? Those are the kinds of fundamental questions that I hope will form a kind of lens as we look at those three major questions that are set out that you'll be discussing later. And then the executive board and I, of course, are going to be listening to your responses, diocesan why, and from that we hope to extrapolate a strategic vision about how we should move forward. The thing I want us to avoid today is giving what I would call Sunday school answers. And what we mean by that, what I mean by that is a comment such as, the diocese needs to do more youth ministry. The diocese needs to do more campus ministry. Those sort of unspecified but good topics that aren't specific enough to where we could delve down into them and really begin to talk with them. And I think part of that is beginning to look at this whole scene and picture from the perspective of where you are in your ministry. All the time what we seem to do is sort of focus on what everybody else ought to be doing. And I think that's one of the main things we need to be careful about. What I'd like to do before I turn you over to the executive board leaders is say something about how I think we have been heretofore functioning as a diocese. Here are my observations, and I think probably I'm talking more specifically about the office of bishop, Talbot Hall. We have been for a long time, of course, a diocese, transitioning out of a difficult period, a period of conflict. And this transition, which has really been a long one, has taken place during a time in which the religious culture in our world has radically changed. And so in many ways we're kind of behind the eight ball on this. But the context for mission, of the church's mission now, is not at all recognizable to what it used to be in the past. And to remember this, I think, is incredibly important. For all intents and purposes, I think the diocese has been a reactive system operating out of what I would call an emergency services model. And what I mean by that is when a parish has a crisis, they call the diocese for help. And the diocese, sort of like the Ghostbusters, gets in that ambulance and goes running out to try and help. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of what we do. But that has become the sort of the sum total of the relationship. We get a call such as, our rector has left. Help us. We need to find a new rector. Or our building is falling down. Help us. Give us some money to keep the building standing. Or our vestry is in conflict. Come help us sort that out. Or our adult education program is floundering. Please come and tell us what to do. And so the diocese goes out and tries to do that, or I should say the office of the bishop. And when a parish is not having a crisis, the diocese is superfluous. It's really got no importance in the life of a parish. It's sort of like the federal government in this day and age, from some people's perspective, that you only need it when you need it. And what is lacking, I think, is any real sense of a deep partnership, a connection, a shared mission between diocese and parish. And that's what we're talking about, and that's where we're focusing and what we want to overcome and move beyond, I think. Let me do a little bit of Church 101. Forgive me, some of you have heard this before. It's very basic, but I think it does help us think about, get a bit of perspective on where we are. Even though I don't think we really buy into it. I think most of the church is still understanding all this as a pyramid model. And this is pretty straightforward, what a pyramid model is. Up here we have the national church, and here we have the diocese, and here we have baptized membership. And that's how things sort of function from a hierarchical standpoint. Again, I don't think we really buy into it, but I still think it's a model that informs our thinking tremendously still. And of course, the anger always flows upward, you know. It moves upward. And so there's sort of this disengagement between these aspects of that. And you could do any number of things. You could put the bishop up here or the Archbishop of Canterbury, but you get the picture, you get the idea. And part of that is that's sort of, in some ways, the way our polity in the Episcopal Church is set up. If you go back deeper into our Anglican roots, I think you actually find something different. Other than we are a hierarchical church, and that's true. What I want to suggest to you that there is a far better model for thinking about this, and a model that I think is much more reflective of the New Testament model of what the church is about. And some of you have heard me say this before, and that's the one I want to bring to your attention and have us use as our lens in our discussion. And just look at it. I'm a terrible artist. This is not my gift. And I don't know if you can even recognize any of this here. But this is more of an organic system for what I think the church really is supposed to be about, as we see it reflected in the New Testament. Or at least as we see it reflected in the New Testament and then described through our Anglican heritage. First of all, these would be the individual parishes. Can you all see this over there? You can't see my terrible drawing? Okay. All right. This is the individual parishes over here. All right. These are all the parishes in Southern Virginia, right here. Okay. And this is the office of the bishop. So I'll put my cross there, and then I'll put a little hat. Kind of thing, right there. And then this, of course, what is this? Anybody want to guess? Yeah, this is the person in the pew. This is the person right here. Now, the part that's exposed and interacting with the world is which part? People. It's the people in the pew. And all of us are connected together through these areas, what I call apostolic connections. Church to church, church to diocese. And it's the diocese function to bring us all together into a unity, to hold us, even in our differences, in a form of unity centered around mission. And I think this is the model that works better, and it's much more reflective of the New Testament. And if we had, I could draw one out that way, I would draw a long line to the next diocese. It is part of my vocation, my role as bishop, to connect you all, our system, to the next system, which forms the entire Episcopal Church. And then that spans out, of course, into the Anglican community. I think if we can think in these terms, it will be very helpful to us. Now, there's one thing I really like about this model. One, it doesn't have anybody at the top. It has my office in the center, sort of like a wheel hub, holding things together, making those connections. But it's much more reflective of the catechism. Can anybody tell me how? Pretty evident. We've sort of named it already. The fact that the first level of ministry is what? Yes, the first one mentioned in the catechism is the laity. It's not the clergy. It's the laity. And so the emphasis on baptized ministry here is what it's really about.